I am excited to talk today about why dating is so much harder these days compared to previous generations. It seems as though these days um, we are saying things like, man, dating seemed to be so much easier back in our parents' generation than it is today. And I'm curious who all can relate to that. If you can, put a yes in the chat if you feel like today's dating is harder than it used to be. Yeah, we got yes, yes. Seems like it, yes. Yeah, it seemed like our parents, it seems like our grandparents, our parents, they kind of just got to know the people that were in their village or their town or maybe their college, their school, their university, and they got married and settled down way earlier than we did. And I think that it has a little bit to do with morality. Although when we look at it, we'll see in the 60s, that's when we had the invention of the birth control, and so we have the free love movement. So I don't know if it was necessarily that they were any more moral back then than today. So I'm curious what you guys think might be the reason. So I want you to put in the chat what you think might be the reasons. Okay, it looks like Joy. Oh, Joy, were you going to share something? Okay, well, Joy, if you want to come back on, I'm going to call on someone. And when we call on somebody, let's just keep our answers down to like 30 seconds or less, just so everybody gets a chance to speak. All right, I'm going to call on Devin. Let's see. All right, Devin, why do you think that dating is harder these days than it used to be in the past?
Hey, Mel, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. I just think that's a funny thing. It's a huge topic, but I think, okay, so if you guys don't know me, I'm Devin from North Dakota. I've been part of Bethel community. I've been to like many churches and I've been saved my whole life. And I believe this about the Christianity. So there's really only two kingdoms, the kingdom of light and kingdom of darkness. So I don't really believe in denominations too much. Like you're either right with God or you're not, right? But I would say this in the church, and for me, I guess you can say I'm like charismatic or Pentecostal, but you could be shocked in the church, you see so much like different doctrines or theology, but even in the families, there's so many people that are progressive and people that are traditional. I think it's safest to say if you stay closest to the Bible, and it's all done with love. The man and the woman are both loving and they understanding each other, like good communication and all that. But I think if you do the Bible in a loving way, it's really good. And if you follow the Bible principles, I would say this though, I think the devil is attacking families hard in so many ways. And this is a huge thing. The Bible talks about the devil as the ruler of this world. And so he has basically like influence. It could be in politics, it can be in media, and he be in so much that the devil has his hand in. I understand that God's in control, but the devil has influence and things like that. And it's important that we have nothing in common with the enemy. And this is true. So if you look even in James chapter 1, verse 27, it talks about like a true religion is this, the feed the poor and the widow and to visit the widow in their time of distress, but also to keep yourselves once unspotted from the world. Well, if you look in American culture, man, the American church, like us, we have to wake up and we got to repent. But the American church is so much involved in the world, like,
Yeah, that's good.
and look, for an example, yeah, I'm attracted to women, but I don't want to date a Barbie, and I don't want to be Ken either. I just want to be a man after God's own heart, and I want to do the Bible right. And we just got to make sure we got to take a fight to the devil, and we just got to. I believe the devil's to blame for some of the things in the church too, and a
Yeah.
lot of it's our own choices. We got to like.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree that, the devil really is I mean, he's like you said, he's the prince of this world and he has a lot of control over whispering lies to people. And unfortunately, the more and more our culture turns away from God, the less we are really following the Lord, and we're a lot more culturally vulnerable to the devil's attack. But it's interesting because we know that the devil has been around since the beginning of time, And so it still kind of begs the question of, well, what is it about today specifically that maybe makes it harder? So I'm going to go ahead and call on Samuel. Devin, thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call on Samuel. Okay, and let's remember to keep these to about 30 seconds just so we can hear from everybody. All right, Samuel. Samuel, you're on. Why do you think it?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I'll try to be as brief as I can. I think a lot of it has to come to commitment issues. Like when you have such a large variety with the dating apps and everything, that you've got like 10 people or 15 people waiting for you, it's hard to commit to one person. And when you face difficulties together, or when you don't like something, or when you have to change something about yourself, rather than just like pushing the extra mile or doing the extra work, you're just going to be like, okay, I'm going to speak with the other person, or to the other two or three persons that are lining up, like on the dating app, or like in real life. I think a lot of it has to come, or it comes down to commitment. And also, like men not being men anymore.
Right.
That counts as well, like when you're not fulfilling your god-given role, and when you don't man up in terms of being a provider, in terms of being a carer, a giver, a spiritual leader where God has put you. Women have to step up, like, and the order that God has given, like gets all mixed up and everybody gets confused. That's about it.
Yeah, Samuel. So I hear you saying there's tons of options. Seems like the commitment level, people are just not as committed, and men not being men and women having to step into that place.
Of course, like when our grandparents had a car and it broke down, they would fix it. They would take it to 10, like auto shops until it was good, until it was running back again. But nowadays, like even if something minor, like breaks or doesn't work as it's supposed to, you're just gonna go and swap it or just sell it, like, and buy another one. And we tend, like being a consumerism society, we tend to project that into our relationships as well.
Ooh, that's good. Thank you so much, Samuel. I really appreciate you sharing. All right. I love that point of view of the consumer mindset. That I think that's definitely something that these days we have more than we used to. Just to his point of, like a car breaking down, we don't, they didn't necessarily have the resources, the technology to be able to just swap things out so easily. And like he said, it probably has seeped into our our mindset. I believe Jen was next, so I'm going to call on her, and then we'll go to Joy. All right, Jen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Absolutely.
I think I totally agree with what Samuel said. Like, we just tend to keep moving to the next person, which is what's happening these days. But on top of it, what I find was also with our values, the Christian values and the biblical values are outdated these days. Especially, I come from a pastor's family. My dad is a pastor, and I've been trying to meet people. Like, I have dated people who are not from like extreme spiritual environment, and I find it so difficult because the Christian values was not like strong, and waiting till marriage or waiting, they just want you straight, like not straight, probably like 3 months down, they are expecting you to live like married couple, and that's not what we are here for. And I've dated people who are similar to my situation, like who are evangelist kids or pastors' kids. And I find it surprising that they have changed their values as per the worldly values as well. Like, they think that Christian values and the old school values are outdated these days, and it's okay to be flexible, and it's okay to step into the world as so that has been a challenge in dating world these days, and also hard to, probably there are men, or I'm in the wrong place, not finding the men who are so strong in faith and who is able to take the leadership, who has a heart for, God. And so it's basically, when you narrow down the people that you want to date, it's like one or two in thousands. And that one or two, when you come down, other Christian values doesn't match. So yeah, that's been what the challenges I have been facing. I think I lost you now. Can you hear me?
Sorry about that. Sorry, Jen. My mic was muted on accident.
Okay.
My bad. So sounds like kind of, and to summarize in general, our world, I guess the world is moving away from maybe a Christian, more Christian values in general.
Yeah.
It sounds like even less people are maintaining those Christian values, and that it's harder to find. So I hear you on that. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to go to Joy. And we're going to do Joy and then Musa and Christian. So we'll keep those sharing a little bit shorter. And then I'm going to share why I think. And so far, nobody's really said what I think probably has the biggest contribution to it. So let's see what Joy, you're next. Joy has to say. Hi, Joy, can you hear me? Oh, no.
Kind of. Hi.
Hi, yay.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Hi, Mel. Hi, Isabel. Thank you for
Hi.
hosting. I'm a Singaporean. So being an Asian, I am a newbie totally to this kind of dating apps. But I have tried a few other dating apps, and I really think dating this day is getting horrible, horribly difficult for a Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, back in Asia, we have a lot of churches where we have gatherings and we have interaction. And I mean, if I don't know if anyone have been to Asia, you know how active Asia is in all sort of entertainments and outing. So I'm totally lost when I'm now staying in UK. And everybody is telling me that, oh, you just go to church and go to your workplace. You're not going to meet anyone. And I was like, why? Then I realized that not only uh, the places close at 4 o'clock and everybody goes home and they don't come out from the home ever since pandemic.
Yeah.
Far worse, far worse is like we Christians, we want to meet with the same faith. I'm non-denominational, but then I believe there's so many different faith in different churches and different sort of ways of compromising in what Jen have said. In fact, Jen has spoken most of what I wanted to say. It's so difficult to find a Christian man.
Yeah.
Nobody is perfect, but then you still need to find the one that is compatible, not only in faith, but it's also in our communication, that we could communicate and to be compatible. And everything here now looks like they want dating fast, really fast. It's like they meet you the first or second time, they're talking about something very, I don't think as a Christian woman, we can accept or to compromise. So
Yeah.
it is indeed very difficult for dating these days, because especially for Asian ladies, it is even far more worse. That's what I
Yeah.
want to share. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Joy. And I'm curious, for everybody listening, if there's any guys, even I'm curious in Asia that are listening right now, any men, 'cause it seems as though a lot of times we hear from the women, oh, I can't find a guy, and from the men, I can't find a girl, which totally are valid, because, I'm single too, and it's easy for me to, I'm in California, and it's easy for me a lot of times to be like, oh, there's just no guys, I just can't find them. And sometimes, like, if I haven't found them yet, that's my reality. and that's absolutely even a reality in other places in the world, because I mean, as our world does move from a Christian nation, or at least the United States is a Christian nation, but our world is getting darker. And so, yeah, I'm going to look in the comments here. If you're in Asia and you're a guy, say me in the comments. I'm curious. And to Joy's point about nobody does things, I want to just encourage everybody. So in case you don't know me, I didn't really do much of an introduction at the beginning, but I live in San Diego, and when I was about 29, so a few years ago, I decided I want to meet more Christian guys in my community. And so I, with a girlfriend of mine, decided to start a speed dating event, and we charged $20 for it. And we had an even number of guys and girls, and we just started it. And it's difficult. I will give you that. It's a hard thing to start, but I want to encourage you guys to potentially start. It doesn't have to be speed dating, but start something in your community, or start like a game night, or start something of unmarried people, like a small group. And I get that you may have tried that and it didn't work, but I just want to encourage you, like, be the change that you want to see. And I personally haven't met anybody yet through those events. I've been on dates with people. However, people have gotten married through those events. And we actually created a Facebook group. I'll drop the link here in a second, but where we have over 5,000 people now. It's in the United States and Canada, just because of like locationally. But it's just been really interesting how God has taken my desire and my need, and I just pursued something that I was gifted in, which is for me, I love hosting events. And maybe that's not your thing, but you link up with somebody whose their thing is hosting events, and your gifting is admin. Boom, you move together, or you group together, and you create an event. Really, like, we need to stop waiting for the church to do things, because unfortunately they have been a little slower moving with the singles. And just create the change you want to see, and keep trusting God for it. And again, I'm in the pit with you guys. I'm single as well. I know it's hard, but I really just want to encourage you guys to really follow the desires that God's put in your heart, and see if he might be calling you into something bigger. Okay, we're going to go to Musa, and then I'm going to go ahead and share what my thoughts are about why it's different, why this specifically today, it's different than our parents or grandparents' generation with dating. All right, Musa. Hello, Musa. Can you hear me?
Participate, but this topic has really like made me interested to share my opinion with you.
Amazing.
As a Christian in Germany, I think it's important to remember that behind every great man, a greater woman, because women actually build families and societies. And what's happening in this world right now is that women started to become more independent, and they are convinced, I wouldn't say they are victims of the society, but they are getting this idea that they do not really need a man. They don't really need anyone, that they can do everything on their own. And then when they get older, they start recognizing, okay, now I need a child. And then they started thinking about sperm banks here in Europe, for example, or freezing their ovaries and all of these things where they don't really need a man, like all of these topics. So dating by itself is being rejected by so many women, and the whole concept of families in this world is being affected. And as a Christian living in this world, I'm actually scared of this whole thing, because the truth is we really need each other, and we should tell the truth that nobody can live without the other. And
yeah, that's good. That's
yeah,
true. I do
yeah.
wonder, though, how many of these women doing this are Christian women, because I think a lot of Christian women, they do want the families, they do want to be married, and I don't know. I don't know if that is the case with Christian women.
If you can check the status in Europe and in Germany precisely, and Switzerland, and you can see the whole concept of the families. Many Christians actually do not. This is the second point that I wanted to mention. The families are made like people compromise usually in family status, or when you're married, you usually offer compromise, and women always want the opposite gender to be stronger and better, which is true. That is the right thing to do. Like, you have to have someone who is stronger next to you as a man. But the point is, in so many cases, the women have achieved way more than men, that they that men cannot keep up. So the whole concept of a stronger gender is being misdefined. What is exactly a strong gender? Is it by money, or is it by a better career? What is a better gender?
Yeah, true.
And I think we don't compromise. We just want the better thing. And with this dopamine hit and social media, it just all got screwed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's you're right. I think it does have to do a lot with social media, and I think what's interesting that I think has happened a lot with the feminism is also, thank you for sharing, Musa. I appreciate it. I think with the I think what has happened with the feminism is, so first when feminism started, it was the women who let me back up. Men were like, I still want to be a man, right? They want to be the providers, they want to be the protectors. Feminism comes on the scene. First, women adopt it, and they're like, I can be like a man. I want to work hard. I want to be independent, blah, blah, blah. And then the men started adopting it, and they're like, I want 50-50. Actually, this isn't so bad. Promiscuity, I kind of like this. The woman pursuing me, it's pretty good. And now I feel like I'm seeing a return away from feminism, more into traditionalism, even with women. Even with non-Christian women, I feel like I'm seeing that like on TikTok and stuff, where they're really, it might be confirmation bias, of course, but I feel like it's the men a lot. And this isn't every man. There are tons of men who want to be the traditional provider, protector. But I think because both genders get confused, and because especially since feminism has seeped so deeply into the church, into everything, even the idea of a man providing 100% upfront, that's even like a hot button for even men, because they're like, I don't know if we're not married, if I should be providing. And it's like, well, do you want to be the traditional man, or do you want to still fight for that feminine position of the receiver, of the one who's being provided for? So it's just an interesting situation that I even see with like my friends. And to men, I want to encourage you to remember, like, who you are created to be: a provider, protector, leader, servant. And that's not just to your wife and kids. That's who God called you to be. You are the tougher of the sexes. You have the capacity to work harder for longer. And so I feel like one thing that has been lost is that men don't consider it their honor to serve, protect, provide for women, or their privilege to protect, provide, serve women. And even our Christian men. And then women, we also don't understand that we need to be showing a lot of respect to men and be building up our brothers in Christ. Not just our husbands aren't the only guys that we need to be respecting. We need to be respectful women. We need to be receptive women, responsive women in general as a whole, because that's how we were made to be more oriented that way. And so I think that those kind of traditional roles have been a little bit lost because of this feminism. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share why I also think the main thing that has changed, and I think it all comes down to the invention of the text message. Now, hear me out on this. Before the text message, a man had to get a woman's phone number at a bar, at a restaurant, at a park, at the school, whatever. And then not only once he had the number, he had to carry it around, because he couldn't call her on the spot because it was her home phone, right? So he either had to wait until he gets home, and then he had all this time to think. Do I really want to call her? Do I really want to get something started with this woman? Is she really the kind of girl that I want to really start things with? And then when he gets home, he has to actually make that call. So there's actually it's a higher barrier to entry than it is now. And he had a risk that roommates would answer, or dad would answer, or mom would answer. So he's having to go through more barriers than he does now. If this is making sense, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead and put in the comments what your thoughts on what I'm saying are. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. And so now what he has to do, all he has to do is get her Instagram, her Snapchat, her whatever, get her number, right? And it's such a low barrier to entry. Now, this isn't necessarily bad, but it does take away the amount of investment a guy has to put into just base level asking a woman on a date. Because think about it, like, if you're a guy, you get a girl's number, you don't know what her schedule is. You can't just like make a date on that spot, like on the spot where you're at. You go, I'll call you and we'll make a date. So think about it. If that guy never calls you, you're bummed, but you probably don't even really remember what he looks like. You know, because you had one conversation, you're never gonna see him again. You're not gonna be stalking him on social media. You move on, whatever. But nowadays, this guy started following on Instagram. He commented on some of your photos. He said how beautiful you were. And now women are like, oh my gosh, like he kind of seems like he's into me. And then he never asks you on the date, or he's liking your photos, but he's not actually pursuing you. It's like he's in your life, but he's not really in your life. And that can it's a low barrier of entry for men. I think that has everything to do with what started changing everything. And then because when men are investing and they're not stepping up and they're not risking anything, it becomes, they don't value it. Just like anything in life, right? So being able to add a girl on Snapchat or Instagram, like it's not that big of a deal. It was very easy to do that. But another thing I want to say is that this is very important to understand the difference between men and women and how they fall in love and how they fall for each other. So a man starts from bottom up. Women start from top down, meaning women start with their head and they think, I wonder what this guy's like. And then, or they see somebody that maybe they're attracted to, or maybe they're not even that attracted to him, but they see something that he does that kind of intrigues them, like the way he smiled or the way he was kind to somebody. And they go, I kind of want to know more about that guy. And then they start spending time together and her heart starts feeling affection for him. And then they spend a little more time, and then we go down south and she starts feeling physical desire for him. Now, what women don't understand about men is it is not this way. If you're a man, say amen in the comments, and you don't have to be ashamed that you are first and foremost attracted to physical beauty. It's not a bad thing. It's the way God created you. They say amen. And again, it's not a bad thing at all. It's the way God designed them. And remember, women, there's a lid for every pot. So don't be saying that's the problem with these days. No, there's a kind for every kind. So guys start down south and they think, oh my gosh, this woman could be awesome for me because they're attracted to her. Now, guys, this is where I call you higher and I say, watch what you say to a woman before you're sure about her. Be very careful because your mind is going to tell you, I might even be in love with this girl because she's so beautiful. But remember, women are going to assume that you are a top down. So by the time you're telling her how beautiful she is, how into her you are, she's assumed, because she works differently, that you've already gone through the mental, the heart, and now you're at the physical. And so that's why she gets confused sometimes, thinking like, man, like, why would he have said that if he wasn't really into me? And then in your head, you're like, it's just because I thought you were cute. Now, women understand that about men. So don't just believe anything they say to you. It's not because they're lying, but it's because they just work different than you. So wait to see if actions are consistent before you get invested literally at all. So that being said, a man can just text a woman. She's assuming he's into her. And then now if she's not wise, she's hooked and she will settle for any little breadcrumbs. So that's what I think is the biggest thing that changed things, because now there's just not as much barrier to entry. Guys jump the gun before they really are sure about a girl, and then they realize, oh, I'm not as interested in her as I thought, and then they pull back, and now the woman's confused. So I'm going to go ahead, and if you guys have any thoughts on that, would love to hear it. We're going to go ahead and shift now to commenting on what I said about the social media, text message, and what your thoughts are. Okay, I think Beatrice was next. All right, Beatrice, hello.
Good evening, Mel and Isabel. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm from the UK, and I feel like I grew up in Italy, but I'm a Nigerian as well. So I grew up with the idea of phones not being very popular at the time, but now I feel like people are texting a lot. I prefer to communicate through seeing the person face to face or through phone calls, and I feel like men nowadays they don't really call much. Women that is interesting, they rather text and text, and I don't find that quite appealing for me. So it's quite difficult to get to know someone very well if you only rely on text message, because it's very difficult to hide emotions. But I feel like if you can hear someone's voice, see them, you can decide more if you're compatible, if you have chemistry, and different things like that. And I also think that for us as Christian, we need to remember, like, to trying to see dating from the godly point of view rather from the world point of view. Sometimes it get mixed up. You do sometimes meet Christians that say they are Christian, but when it comes to values, they don't always reflect that in their approach in dating you as a person. Maybe they expect to get, for example, intimate before marriage, which is something that as Christian we shouldn't stand for. And also, like, people need to get more confident and need to heal as well first, because many people trying to date, but maybe they have not really healed from old wounds, and that is going to affect the quality of the relationship that you're trying to get into. And I think it's very important for us to make sure that we are, healed very first, that we have like a solid, good relationship with the Lord first before we can be able to like approach someone and be able to date them. And there's a fear as well of people getting serious and committed and getting married. I feel like many people, they would rather just date for the moment for fun rather than dating with the intentional goal to end up getting married in the end.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing, Beatrice. And what my thoughts on that is, like, there are always going to be people in this world that are not going to want to get married. There's always going to be people who, I mean, non-Christians, they are not going to have a value for waiting for sex until marriage. Even lukewarm Christians, they are not going to have a value for waiting for sex until marriage. And honestly, it's as frustrating as it is, count it as a blessing that you found that out early. Like, that's not your man. And it can be frustrating, but also we have to understand this is the reality of the world. We live in a broken, fallen world. So of course these people are not gonna, like, of course they're gonna want to have sex before they're married. Like, they're not our people to be married to. And we also need to have the abundance mentality that, like, there are good, godly men out there. There's a ton even in this chat. And just to show, men, how many of you, I want you to put in the chat, I am, if you are waiting, even if you've had sex or, been intimate, but if you're waiting from right now on to be intimate with a woman, can you put I am in the chat? I just want the women to see that there are men who are waiting. Look, there are good men. And I get it. You're like, well, where are they? Where are they? They are out there. And we really do need to have this abundance mentality that, hey, they are out there, and I'm not going to settle for anything less. And it sucks. It sucks. There's not just seemingly an abundance of guys just, crawling after us, begging us for our number. But you know what? Like Beatrice said, of what we all need to do and be, let's work on becoming that ourselves and focusing on, like, how can I put myself out there? Because there are lots of problems in this world. And to Beatrice's point, yeah, getting healthy is so important. Knowing yourself, this is so important. And yes, there is a crisis in masculinity. Unfortunately, that is the work of the enemy. That's the agenda of the enemy. Take down the man, you'll take down the family, you'll take down everything. Now, women, we can be helping our brothers by encouraging them. When we see them doing something good, encourage them and pray for them. That's pretty much all we can really be doing. And also keeping our standards high. If a man is trying to sleep with you before you're married, we're not dating that man anymore. You say, oh, I'm sorry. For me, I'm waiting for somebody who wants to wait till marriage. Like, even though you are okay with it, that's actually not my standard. My standard is that you are also wanting to wait and you stop dating him. And he's going to miss out on you. But that's the standard we have to hold ourselves to. And realize that, like, his grace truly is sufficient. And I'm saying this as a single woman who's 31. His grace is sufficient. And we don't need a husband to live a happy and fulfilling life if the Lord has not brought that to us yet. And it's so hard to hear, and it's heartbreaking, and there's grief that goes along with it. But we need to also see the Lord as he is our provider. Like, he will sustain us, and we don't need to drop our standards for a man who's just going to tolerate the Lord or tolerate our us wanting to wait to have sex till marriage. Because God is good. We need to remember that. The Lord is good, and God is for us. He is for marriage. He is for us. We have to tell ourselves that he's a good father that gives good gifts. He's not trying to hide things from us. He's not trying to take away. He's not trying to just skimp on us. Now, that might mean that we take bold risks and we ask ourselves, what are we actually fearing in life that might be preventing us from finding that person? For you, maybe it's moving away from home. I don't know. It might be like, oh man, like I'm scared to move away from my hometown. I'm scared that God's not going to provide for me. Maybe move closer to a city where there are more people. Like, ask yourself, am I really willing to go and do anything for God? Or what fears might be holding me back? Or do I have a fear of meeting new people? Instead of being like, God, where are they all? Be like, maybe I need to work on my fears. And maybe that's the reason why I'm prevented from getting what I truly want. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to Annette. She's been waiting patiently. All right, Annette, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you, Mel. Thank you for a lovely conversation. I just wanted to share my thoughts. I think I agree with Joy. As an immigrant woman in the UK, I feel that most of the barriers probably border around different cultures, where when you've moved away from home and you are settling in a new place, everything is different. I'm spending all of my time at work. And if I'm not at work, I'm probably studying towards one thing or another. And if it's not that, then maybe I'm at church, where culture is also different. I mean, it's all Christian, but the culture is very different. Everybody sort of comes in very British, and they do worship and they leave and they go back home to Sunday lunch. So I think for me, those have been some of the barriers where I don't know where to meet people. And then you come on a platform like this one, and hoping that you would be able to meet with people of a different color, race, to yourself, and you recognize that maybe not, they don't kind of recognize you as somebody that would be dateable. I don't know what the issue with that is. I would have thought that people can see beyond color and explore what could be purposes of God in each other in order to find what we're looking for. But that has not been my experience on Salt.
Oh, Annette, thank you for sharing that. And I just want to say I'm really sorry that has not been your experience. And man, there's so much pain in that, and there's so much disappointment, really. And I wish I had an answer that I could be like, just do this, change that. And sometimes it's hard, and I just want you to know I'm with you in this. And but when we don't know the answer, and I'm not trying to like dismiss your pain and being like, just look on the bright side, because this is reality, and it's real. And sometimes we just have to be like, God, I don't understand. And there's so much pain in it.
I think I do still believe in the purpose of God. I still believe in Him providing and giving to me what I must have in my life. I think it probably takes a greater level of faith, a greater level of creativity, and being able to put yourself out there and not mind what the barriers are and still push through.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and I just want to, I think you hit the nail on the head of it. It takes it takes a greater level of faith, and maybe, just maybe that's what God's calling us into. Maybe that's why all of us are still single. Maybe that's, it wouldn't be our preferred method, but the way of God growing us in our faith. And you know what, God, we have to remember, God cares. Like, God cares about our feelings, about our heart, about our relationship status, and he's the creator of creativity, right? And so I wonder, like, what if we all just started praying, Lord, show me where to go. Give me a sign, like, where do you want, like, help, give me some creative ideas of where to go, of whether I should start my own thing, or, and it may not happen right away, but, it's all we can do, and really focus on, be thankful for what we have, but, also at the same time hold, like, I would like to be married, and it's hard. And so, Annette, thank you for sharing. I honor you, and appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Oh, shoot, I don't remember the order. I know that Ryan has had his hand up for a while. All right, Ryan. Oops, come on. There we go. Hello, Ryan. Can you hear me? Sometimes it takes a minute to connect. Give it a few more seconds. Ryan. Okay, well, Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
There he is. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Enjoying the discussion.
Awesome. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's probably some truth from both sides, but as a guy, I'll speak to what I see from my side, and I think it's what one of the guys said earlier who was speaking, that I think feminism has just kind of ruined the game a little bit. I feel like 40 years ago, a woman's big goal in life was to basically find a man, a provider, somebody that she could ride or die with.
Yeah.
And ever since they started going into the workforce and getting careers, it seemed like they've just got these split priorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that has definitely messed up both men and women. Although I would be curious if the women in the chat, if you want a man to provide for you, and you don't want to make your career your priority, just put I am, or that's me. Actually do that's me, because I'm curious, because we keep saying all these things, and I think that we are really seeing a return from that. But that still has a lot of, our roots are still in the feminism. And but I do think that today, like, majority of women in the church, I would think, are so far, everyone says, I think that a lot of women, they do want to be that stay-at-home mom. They do want to find a guy. I mean, there definitely are still women who want to be independent and feminist and stuff. But it just looks like a lot of women do want that. And yeah, so it's just kind of this, like, do we focus on the women, and the men also for on the women's side of, like, they don't they want to go 50-50, or they don't want to provide, or do we focus on, like, hey, like, there are women out there that do want that, and, like, how do we kind of move forward? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you reconcile, like, how much do you focus on, like, feminism, and how much do you focus on, like, okay, there are going to be women who do want that, and I'm going to focus on that and go after it?
Yeah. I don't know, Mel. I guess I'll just try and speak to my situation. I think with the feminism thing that I was kind of talking about, I think that it's predominantly like a Western phenomenon, and specifically American. Well, I would say American, probably more so than many other countries.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I live in a pretty good sized city. The economy is good here. People are making money here. So I think maybe that's something that maybe just exacerbates the situation where I'm
Yeah,
at.
that's a good point.
But I know, not everybody's from the same place.
Yeah, no, I love that you brought that point up. Do you mind sharing which city it is?
Sure. Yeah, I'm in the Tampa Bay area.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense of, just being a more thriving area. Confirmation bias, like you're going to get probably a lot more career oriented women there.
Yes.
But I do wonder, more in like the Midwest or in the South, if there would be more of those women who are looking for more like traditional men. But yeah, very interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing, Ryan.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay. Tifa. Hello. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Tifa? Tifa. Yeah, I love David's point. Ryan's point of it is really interesting what people want. And even reading some of these comments, some people say, I don't want a provider, I want a partner, which to me sounds a little more 50-50, and other people saying, oh, I want a provider. So that kind of just goes to show, like, everyone kind of wants something a little different, and we just really got to be polarizing in what we want, stand for what we want, and just become the person that our person would be looking for. So if you want a provider, you want to work on becoming a very feminine woman, a very soft woman, very receptive woman, because a guy who's a provider wants to provide for you. If you want to be more of like partnership, and one's not worse or better than the other, there's people on both sides of the line and what they prefer, egalitarian, more complementarian. Then if that's what you want, more of a partner, then work on becoming really well-rounded in all areas, so that you're going to be attracted to somebody who wants more of a partner 50-50 kind of situation. All right. How do you say your name? Tifa?
It's actually Tifu.
Tifu! I'm so sorry. It's a beautiful name.
It's fine.
Tifu. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Hi, thank you for having me. I live in Germany, and I must say the dating game here, it's quite difficult because from my experience, most people here in Germany are atheists. So it's really difficult to get into the dating pool. I don't come from Germany originally. I'm African who moved to Germany of recent. And I'd also say the dating culture is quite different in both continents, in Europe and back in Africa. Like in Africa, I feel like men are more bold, and they approach women easily compared to Germany, where, sorry?
Did you say in Africa? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Got it.
Okay,
go ahead.
Speaking specifically from my country, but then that's what I've noticed from looking at Africa as a whole.
Yeah.
Men are bolder when it comes to approaching women, and that's we have like this provider mindset.
Absolutely.
Most men work so their wives can stay home and nurture and just be a homemaker. That's the term we use nowadays. And in Europe, you actually find men who demand that you go 50-50. I mean, for me, it's just outrageous that I'd have to nurture, I'd have to do everything that I'm doing and still be I'm not no, that's not for me. And so I feel like feminism, and also the fact that we have so many people feel like they have so many options. There's so many dating apps out there, and people just feel like, oh, if it doesn't work for me on Salt, then I could go to, I don't know, Hinge or whatever. I could try my luck there. And I also feel like most guys here, as I earlier said, are a bit shy when it comes to approaching women because of this extravagant feminism ideology that is going on, and women feel like, why do you have to approach me? And men are just scared that they're going to be rejected, and it makes it difficult because I don't know, for me, speaking for myself, I'd like to be pursued by a guy. I don't want to take the first step. I could, but I don't necessarily want to. And I'd like for you to be worthy of me submitting to you, because I feel like men nowadays they just want that respect, or they want women to submit to them, and they don't want to actually submit to Christ. Like for me, what's the most attractive thing in a man is if he is submissive to Christ. For me, it's so easy because I know my future in your hands is assured. If you can submit to Christ, then I actually have nothing to worry about. So yeah, for the men in the dating in the chat, just like, you know, if you see somebody, please pursue them, stop being shy, or I don't know, just click on the profile and write to them. You might just be lucky or blessed. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And to her point, about how, you know, like men from Africa, for example, they have not been inundated with this Western feminism. And so it's, you know, we want to talk a lot about equality. And yes, men and women are worth equal. Like no one is better than another. However, we have different roles biologically. We just do. And a man is feeling, and this might make some people angry, but a man is going to feel most fulfilled in life when he is winning and achieving something, whether that be in his home or outside his home. Relationships alone will not make a man feel fully fulfilled and satisfied. For a woman, they can feel fully, like biologically, most, and this is majority, will be able to feel fully fulfilled and satisfied in life through relationships alone. And when a man has been taught, and a woman too, that there's no difference between us, we are 50, like we're the same, then we learn, men even start valuing women for masculine qualities that actually aren't the quality, the feminine qualities that they do bring to the table, more or less. So that they're asked, you know, what do you bring to the table? Now this creates a depolarization of men and women. And so in Africa, it's very polarized. Men are appreciated for what they bring to the table. They're appreciated, they're acknowledged, they're expected that this is just who I am. I am a provider. I protect women. This is my role as a man, not even just as a husband or boyfriend. As a man, I provide. Now that has been lost a lot in our Western culture because women are also the man or the provider in the relationship, or just seen as being strong and independent. That is so praised. And a man is even sometimes repelled by a woman who maybe says like, or needs help or needs, isn't 100% financially secure. And they say, what does she bring to the table? And they forget their God-given role of protector, provider. And so that I think is a huge part of the problem, because when a man sees himself that way, he's going to know rejection is part of the process. Rejection is just part of it. And so they're taught that from a little boy, and they learn to deal with the rejection. And so then they're not as afraid to approach the woman. So what do? Most of us are in the Western world. Women, I would say, make it very obvious when you're interested. You don't have to be the one to go up and approach them, but you know, we kind of have to meet somewhere in the middle, because it's not like men asked to be indoctrinated with femininity or feminism just as much as you didn't ask to be indoctrinated with feminism. So we really need to, like, yes, we can point the fingers and be like, they need to do this better, they need to do this better, but let's think of a way we can meet in the middle for the time being. So women, if you want to be asked out, maybe like the person's profile, you know, like let them know that you would be open and interested if they were to ask you out, you know. And a lot of that, women, we really can set the tone if we learn how to lean back and be more in our feminine. I'm actually teaching a class on that. It's going to be October 9th and 10th, sorry, 8th and 9th. It's a workshop that I'm doing. It's a dating workshop, and you can find it if you go to the link in the chat. It says you can connect with me on IG. It's pinned at the top, and it's going to be $14, and it's a 2-day event. And I'm going to talk about just dating in general. I'm going to touch on online dating and giving women ways to more or less bring out this provider in a man. Now he has to be like willing to be the provider, to be the giver. But if you're looking for that in a man, we have to have some grace to be like, okay, guys, he may literally just not know what that even looks like. Now, it's not that we make excuses for him, but there is a way when we sink into our feminine, when we move into a more receptive role, it might inspire the man to step up and into his more giver role, protector mode, especially when we're really good at affirming it. Men will realize, I like how I feel around this woman. I like that I get to protect her, provide for her, and she appreciates it. And so that's something that I'm going to be teaching. If you want to go to my Instagram, you can connect with me there. And if you go to the link in the bio, you can sign up for that. Okay, let's see who has not spoken yet and been, okay. I know Joshua's hand has been raised. I'm so sorry if you guys have been waiting. I'm going to go ahead and call on Joshua. Hello, Joshua. Can you hear me?
Yes. I want to say it's very refreshing to hear you as a dating coach speak about these things that is just completely frowned upon in culture. I would say this, that I think one of the biggest issues in dating is that parents are not involved. I think that a lot of women get hurt because they neglect the covering of their father. But I don't blame women. I blame women for individual decisions, but I blame everything on men, because his family right, then his daughter would crave or desire his covering and protection in this season. I was actually dating a female. Well, we weren't a couple, but I was talking to her, and we were getting to know each other, and I was surprised that she did not tell her family that we were talking, and she wasn't living in a home. She was actually living in a different state and living and working. I encouraged her. I said, "What if you're in danger? Your father knows what's going on, and so he don't know how best to protect you." You know. Another thing that I think is an issue is that women go into the workforce and they think, I have to achieve this career and getting married and having children. If I'm going to submit to my husband, getting married, having children is going to get in the way of that. So I'll become a more valuable wife or more valuable catch if I have this degree or this career behind, under my belt. And for me as a man, if a woman go to college, that's kind of a red flag to me. Why? Because if she's going to university and she's not at home, she's not under the covering, lost that covering, and she's been indoctrinated by a feminist, right? And on top of on top of that, and so I would prefer. Oh, and then here's another thing, and I know that I'm taking up time, but here's another thing: a lot of women don't understand the value of their youth. A man desire a younger woman because she's youthful. She is likely going to be more innocent. She's likely going to, and she's going to be more beautiful, likely. What I've heard, and I believe this to be true, what a lot of women should do is this. When you are of age and of maturity, start looking for a man who is older, maybe 5 or 6 years older than you. Maybe at 18, you desire to be married. If you marry a guy who's 18, he's probably not going to be mature. But if you date a guy who's 25, 26, right, or 23, or whatever the case is, he might already be out of college. When you guys get married, you might be able to just go ahead and start having children, and he's financially able to provide. And then, I just say this one thing to men.
Go for it.
I think that a lot of men are not as attractive, like women are not attracted to men, is because we're not protectors. A lot of, like, for me, I'm a protector. I train with my guns. I know how to hunt. I know how to survive in the woods. Men, if you're not a protector, you're just as emotional and feminine as women, they're not going to want you. And so I think that is, yeah. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Joshua. And unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time. I know there's been lots of opinions on this call, and I'm really glad that we were able to, engage with one another. And there's a lot of interesting things to think about in terms of how much of this is our culture, how much of this is truly what God's word is, and it's a tricky situation. It's a tricky topic, but I just pray that we're all seeking the Lord in this. And we might even do a part 2 next week.